Hello, welcome to Working Dragon Mystic, where we discuss real, metaphysical, and occult knowledge so that you can manifest real and tangible results in your life. This week, I want to talk about something that I've been getting a lot of questions about very recently, and it's a topic that honestly has come up a lot throughout my practice and my teaching other people and having discussions with practitioners and non-practitioners alike, okay? And that is prayer. Ooh, probably didn't expect to hear that one from me, did you? Yes, I know. I'm one who constantly refers to myself as faithless. I tend to follow facts and data. And that is true. And prayer is used in a lot of practices. Would I say I do prayer? I don't know. Actually, you know what? When I think about it, to some extent, I would say I do. And we're going to get into that. Okay. Now, for some people, they want to say that prayer and meditation are one and the same. As someone who grew up in the church and spent a lot of time in the church and even taught in the church for a while, if you can believe that, I probably can't have mentioned it on this channel a time or two. But prayer and meditation are not the same. They are always separated for a reason. They are always mentioned as a pair, like peanut butter and jelly. Peanut butter is not jelly. Jelly is not peanut butter. And prayer and meditation is the same way. They do differ. They can both definitely come into their own individually, but they are powerful together. Now, in the metaphysical side of it, prayer could be used in different ways. It could be used as a short, simple, quick devotion to an entity. Perhaps you worship Odin or Aphrodite or Hecate, and you want to start your day with a quick, simple prayer, asking for a blessing or guidance through your day. You can do that very simply. Something as easy as Hecate, bless me as I go through my day, help me make good decisions, help me be alert and aware, and to learn in your wisdom. Boom, that's a prayer. Now, prayer is one of those things where most of the time you're going to say a prayer. It's definitely going to be a one-way street where you're saying the prayer, you're hoping the entity hears it, which in my personal opinion, and mind you that this is an opinion, I truly believe anytime we say it, they hear it. They may not respond. They got better things to do. And even if they do respond, you would still be in need of your arcane senses to hear it. You would still need to be still and quiet and focused to hear it. This is why prayer and meditation often go hand in hand. So if all you're doing is jumping in, saying that quick prayer in the morning or saying it while you're in the shower or while you're driving, those kinds of prayers do have some power to them. First off, you're saying, drawing the attention of the entity you are praying to. If that's the case, you may be lucky and they may see fit to help you. Your next one would be closer to what I do. When I'm doing path workings long term with particular entities, I don't always do full evocations for every work. Look at the hailing rite as a good example to this. A hailing rite is a very simple ritual where you are calling to an entity. It does not necessarily require a full connection to the entity, but you are essentially saying a devotional / prayer to that entity. And we go over that in the hailing rite. But real quick, the hailing I use for Freya as an example. Hail Freya, goddess of love and beauty, queen of the Valkyries, goddess of war and magic. Bless me, guide me, and protect me. Hail Freya, hail Freya, hail Freya. In this quick little prayer incantation, whatever, I would actually call this a prayer. This is why I say I would pray. Some people want to refer to this as a calling, a hailing, which it is a hailing, because you can, if you leave off that last part, you're essentially using the hailing ritual to hail Freya to you, right? Well, if you look at that second part, though, guide me, bless me, and watch over me, those are aspects of a prayer. Now, depending on how I do this, I may not be expecting to hear from her. In most cases, I'm not, if it's just a basic devotion. Maybe I say this while driving. Maybe I say it quietly before I leave the house. But it is something you can do. And that would be something that would qualify in my mind as a very basic prayer. So I have to be honest, if you ask me, do I use prayer in my practice? In a situation like this, yes, I absolutely use it. Now, in a more formalized prayer, say Catholic prayers, the long ones, the Hail Mary, full of grace, all those. Do I use those? No, I don't. I know a lot of magicians who do. I don't, but I've never liked long form rituals and stuff like that. So it's never really been one for me. But I do know a lot of magicians who do it. And don't go up here and start getting into the religious bickery on here. Remember, we don't attack religions here. We don't attack practices. This is an open forum, okay? So remember that. But so those are more flowery prayers. Can you see those in other practices? Absolutely. I have seen prayers to Odin and other deities that are massively long. And people's like, well, that's a full ritual. No. What I'm saying is, like, if you have a full ritual format, like you got the opening of the ritual, you got the full opening, you're calling the quarters in, you're calling in the circle, you're calling in the elements. Everybody's doing the opening, you setting up the full space and everything, you're calling in the god and the goddess, you get the full ritual open, then you get to the body of the ritual. There's a lot of places where people will put in opening prayer, and it is a long one. They are really long. I am personally remembering one at a Hecate Sickle Festival that the opening prayer alone was 15 minutes. And then they had a closing prayer where they actually wrote a separate closing, and it was 20 minutes. I've also seen this at some Norse events where the opening prayer to the gods would be very long. Sometimes the ones that are for Norse ones, though, they had an individual prayer listed out for every deity that they wanted to partake in the particular event. And because of that, the opening prayer was definitely extended. But in some cases, it was the long form. Is there anything wrong with this? My answer is no, there isn't. If you want to use prayer, use prayer. There's nothing wrong with it. There is power in prayer. People don't want to hear that, especially occultists and practitioners in magic. We don't want to admit the power of prayer or faith magic. In fact, most of us want to write faith magic off entirely and call it just a bunch of hokum. But there is power there. And perhaps that's a roundtable topic or a video for a different thing, faith magic in and of itself. And faith magic, I would even argue, is harder than what I do, or perhaps it's just harder for me. So I do know a few people who practice it, but I'm getting on a tangent. Sorry. Back to prayer. Prayer is an extension of that faith magic, that is for sure. But there's nothing that says that you can't say a prayer to an entity. Now, like I said, I say prayers to Odin and Freya and Hel and other entities like those. And when I do get a chance to speak with them, there's a time or two I've asked them, and they've assured me, yeah, we heard your prayer. Because I know for a fact, like you all know, I recently took a very, very long road trip because we had to do a move. I would say a hailing rite to Odin every day. At the minimum, I was doing that hailing rite daily to Odin, asking him for his protection. Because there were some mornings I couldn't get to all the rituals I would want to do. I'd do rituals in the evenings also, but I would do the prayers in the morning. Now, this had two effects, and this is something I've sat down and spoke with Odin and Freya in some extent about, and I've also spoke with other divinities, not just the Norse, so this goes with other pantheons I've worked with, that they do hear the request. It does draw their attention, and it makes sure that they're keeping an eye on their follower or their friend. What does that mean? Well, I've asked about it a bit, and if you just randomly play, let's say you don't give a crap about Odin, you don't care who he is, you know nothing about him, yeah, okay, Odin, I don't care about you. But you find yourself in a situation for whatever reason, you say, you know what, I could use Odin's help right now, and you say a quick prayer. that prayer is not going to have a lot of power because there's no connection, there's no relationship there. Will he hear it? Yeah. Will he care? Maybe not, because there's no relationship there. When you say a simple prayer, you're going to need that relationship to develop the power. This is why prayer and devotion are often coupled together, much like prayer and meditation. Because if you're constantly giving thanks to a particular entity or entities through short form prayer, you can build up a relationship as sort of a gratitude. They're thankful that you're giving them the time of day. But if you're not willing to give them the time of day normally, then when you just randomly call them because you need something, they're not liable to give you the time of day. It sucks but it's true. It is often very true. That's not to say they won't give you the time of day, but when we're talking about likelihood of manifestations or likelihood that they're going to do it, the odds are not in your favor if you just do it at random, as opposed to something you make a habit of. This is where devotionals in a religious form of practice actually do have an advantage and a great deal of power, because you're doing that daily. You're showing your gratitude, your thanks, and you're constantly putting forward your best foot and letting the entity know that you believe in them, you respect them, and you're grateful for them in your life. And you may be asking for small blessings here and there as well. Perhaps you're lighting a candle for them. Perhaps you're just leaving a bit of bread, or perhaps you're just making the time. Honestly, most places making the time to do a focused point of devotion for them is more than enough. And that is perfectly fine. And because you've developed that practice and you've developed that working relationship, even if it's just that goes a lot further than just randomly asking for help out of nowhere. And I know a lot of people don't like that, and I get that. I really do. Now, some entities, they hear prayer. Do they give it much credibility or whatnot? I get this in dragon magic a lot. Do dragons accept prayers? They don't like worship. They're really very much against worship. How do they feel about prayer? That's a good question. It really is. Prayer and worship are not the same, as we've already covered, because prayer is essentially calling out to an entity, maybe asking for a blessing or something, but it's not worship. Again, in religions, much like prayer and meditation, you hear the phrase praise and worship. Again, there's a separation because, like peanut butter and jelly, they're not the same. Worship is literally that. You are giving awe. You are giving worship to something that you believe to be bigger than you. You are truly awestruck by it. You're putting it up. You're setting it on a pedestal. You're giving it a sacred position. That is worship. Dragons don't want that. Now, because of that, you can pray to a dragon and they will hear it. How likely is a dragon to answer? Truth be told, if you don't have a good working relationship with them, and dragons deal in active working, not passive, unfortunately, they are very unlikely to do anything quickly or immediately about it. That's the way it is. Now, that's being said, let's say you have that working relationship. Like at this point in time, for, oh God, I'm getting old, over 20 years, I've been working with the rulers. Could I say a prayer to Terra Fauna and expect an answer? Actually, yes, I do believe I could. In fact, I have. I have no problem saying a quick hailing rite to Terra Fauna, or just a prayer to Terra Fauna, or any of the rulers or the dragons I work for, or not work for, work with. Sorry, I just got out of a business meeting. That said, I don't seem to pray to the rulers as much as I do perhaps the specialty dragons, actually. Anyone who's taken Dragon Magic 102 will know what I'm talking about. And if you haven't, go over to workingdragonmystic.com. You can find it on school, Dragon Magic 101 and 102. But one of the specialty dragons that we've talked about here on this channel is X Boonwell. He is a prosperity dragon. I won't lie, there's been plenty of times when I'm making a business decision or financial decision on the fly. I have no problem saying a quick little prayer to Exponent Well for wisdom, to keep me from doing something stupid. Has he jumped in and nudged me one way or the other? Yes, he has. But note that I have a many year working relationship with him, so that when I call out to him in prayer, that's something different than someone who just heard the name in this video and tried praying to him. Same thing with many of the other dragons. I can't remember the other one that we shared on the channel. My apologies. But let's go to, for example, Coralegra, the ruler of water. I have often said many prayers of healing to Coralegra in aiding in healing of myself or another. But again, it requires that working relationship. I do honestly think that traditional divinities or gods tend to answer blind prayers more than dragons. I will say that. That is one point. Got to give the pantheons, because they are more inclined to understand religious worship, and they are okay being called gods. They are okay being worshipped. They are far more receptive to blind prayer. They don't really require the fully built relationships as much. So you're going to get better results there on blind prayer. When it comes to developed relationships and answer, that one gets harder, honestly. I think they're about equal. If you just say pantheons versus dragons, now certain deities or entities may definitely skew that. Odin is one who, he likes to see you do things for yourself first. So something as simple as a prayer, he will look at you, he will help you, but he's also going to put a lot of weight on you to do for yourself in the process. It's just his kind of teaching method, if you will. So in that case, yeah, full rituals with Odin might be the better way to go. But then again, if you work with Odin and these other entities like the Norse, self-sufficiency and self-reliance are kind of top tier for your lifestyle. So you probably wouldn't mind the way that they put more weight on you to do for yourself before they lighten your load. And that's fine. For me, that's one of the reasons I enjoy the Norse, actually. So it's going to be a different cup of tea for everyone. But yeah, I do think there is value in prayer. It's just a matter of how you're going to use it. It's not just a religion thing, because if we think about it, a prayer is a form of calling out to an entity and hoping they hear you, or perhaps having faith that they hear your prayers. And we've all heard the cliches about sometimes the greatest gift is unanswered prayers. I don't know if I buy into that. Perhaps that's my problem with religion and faith personally, is what's the point if you have no actual control or power over your destiny? Whereas in magic, it's either in my control or it isn't. And if it isn't, I ain't gonna waste my time. I'm going to do something else. But I have seen it is in my control. That's why I prefer arcane magic in my personal life. Doesn't mean I don't see the value in faith for those who have it. Because I have seen wonderful things in those categories. Now, let's say you start using prayer. Let's say you start doing simple prayers. Is there something you could do to potentially take it forward? Can prayer replace actual dedicated study to magic? No, it really can't. I've seen no evidence, proof, or anything that prayer can develop a magician. Just, it can't. If all you're doing is using prayer, you will never develop self, because essentially at that point, all you're doing is relying on an outside source to take care of you. Not really my cup of tea. Not saying it's not a road to go, but it's also not going to develop you individually. And that's kind of the goal if you're studying magic, is self-development, self-empowerment, self-mastery. So with that, you could use prayer, but you're also going to have to study the other things. Meditation would be a great place to start. And we do have a full course on meditation if you're interested in that. Sorry to be plugging all this. But meditation is going to not only allow you to say the prayer, like if you want to take it to the next level, instead of just a quick prayer, and I even still do this, is you would actually do the prayer and you would sit and listen and be and focus on the entity in which you prayed to. Let's go with Odin on this. So let's say I'm going to use a hailing ritual for Odin, and I sit down and do my hailing ritual. Hail Odin, All-Father, Wise One, One-Eyed Wanderer, King of the Azure, Lord of Valhalla. Join me here and now in this place. Well, no, hold on. That would be if I was calling. Yeah, let's go with it. Join me here and now in this place and grace me with your presence. Hail Odin, hail Odin, hail Odin, hail Odin, hail Odin. Watch over me, guide me, bless me, protect me, and those around me. Hail Odin, hail Odin. I know I butchered that from my normal pattern because I'm on camera and nervous. Okay, let's say I do that. That's my quick calling to Odin, and then I did a quick little prayer. All right. Then I would just sit, focus on Odin, focus on my breathing, not just be, just focus on that prayer for a little bit. Maybe 5 or 10 minutes at best. And it's during that focus, during that time where you're shutting out all the clutter of the day. You're shutting out everything else. You're just sitting with that. You're giving that time to that entity, but you're also giving them time to respond. You're putting yourself in a position to listen. You're putting yourself in a position to receive information, receive confirmations. It may not come. There's many people who use this process and never hear a damn thing. Then there's many people who get information, ideals, inspiration. It may come in words, it may come in thoughts, it may come in images, it may come in any number of variety of ways. It could just be inspire you to do something out of character to help benefit yourself. But that is a way that prayers are answered. I've used this a lot. I didn't have the ability to do much. I didn't have a lot of time. I maybe had 5 or 10 minutes to catch a breather. I was stressed. I was just tapped out, and I would say a quick prayer, and focus on help me get through this, help me figure out how to fix this. And while taking those breathers, taking those deep meditative breaths to calm and focus, I would see a solution. There it was, clear as a bell. It would work. And I'd go back and I would do it. Now, to the naysayers out there about whether entities exist or not, prayer and meditation is a way of tapping into oneself to seek self-inspiration, possibly just by calming yourself down enough that new ideals are made clear to you that were already before you. But by calming yourself with the meditation, it becomes obvious. That's a possibility. I can't discount that. But I do personally believe that there is something to the receiving of inspiration, information, and answers from entities through prayer as a definite method. And for most people, this is the go-to method. Evocation, that's a much harder, complex process. And not everyone has the time nor the desire to learn it. And I get that. In fact, most people, when they're using prayer, they're calling it evocation. They don't actually see the differential here. But that's one of those things. And if you're interested in evocation, keep your eyes out on the Working Dragon Mystic School. You can find us at workingdragonmystic.com on that school tab. We do have an evocation course coming if you're interested in evocation. And we'll probably be doing some videos to talk more about evocation coming up soon and how they differ. But for a lot of people, this is sufficient. And I know a lot of people more spiritual than magician, and that's fine, not judging. All they need, prayer and meditation, and they groove it. And their lives actually are very blessed. You can see the blessings that prayer and meditation alone bring into their life. There is a true power to it. Because as that relationship develops, as you gain more and more faith and belief and trust into this entity that you're praying to, there does seem to be a nice little feedback of blessings that come along with it. This is in some ways the cornerstone of what people term faith magic. And there's a beauty to it. There's a power to it. There is. It's not for everyone, though, because for it to work, you have to let go of a lot. And some people, myself included, have trouble letting go. I don't want my destiny to be driven for me. I don't want my destiny to be, Derek, we're just going to tow you wherever we want you to go. That's not what I want in life. That's not what I want in my reason for being. I want to have a control. I want to have a say. I want to work for what I have. I want to develop it. And I want to be an integral part of that process. To the arcane magician, that's very much where they pursue. But they can still use prayer as a part of it. And it is a valuable tool. It is a simple tool, but it is valuable. Now, is there a right or wrong way to do it? There's a lot of people who would debate that and talk about it. Yes, there is. No, there isn't. I would say effective prayer is respectful. It is direct. It is caring. And it is meaningful. Okay, meaningful. Now, what's that one mean? Because respect, okay, we talk about that all the time. It is direct, so you're getting straight to the point, not wasting time. Got that. But what does it mean when I say meaningful? I do believe for prayer to be effective, there has to be a true meaning or need. Prayer is a little less whimsical. It's a little less, I want this just because I want it. I don't need it. I just want it. Prayer is a little bit more about guiding needs in a lot of cases. But it's also has a way of showing you the beauty and the joy of the current moment and situation, even when times are dark or bad, where you may not have a lot. So prayer can even give meaning to rough times. Now, one thing that I know a lot of people say, I don't like prayer. I never hear anything. I don't ever get any answers. It's a waste of my time. I was one of those people. I really was. And I get that. And because of that, for some people, prayer may not be a good tool. Because if you're wanting something more meaningful, something more tangible, prayer is such a very light, very soft, almost disconnected sort of feel in most cases that most people feel they get nothing out of it. And I can respect that. On the other hand, when that connection developed, when that connection's truly developed, and you've really got that good, solid relationship with an entity, I would argue that it's very, very, very clear that that entity heard you and that you feel a connection with them. Some would even say you feel their presence just by the uttering of a prayer. And that's when I really started to understand it better. And it was weird because Odin's the one that kind of showed me that one. And looking back at all the prayer I was doing when I was still in the church, I realized the presence of the Christ figure was there. I could feel that, but I didn't know what it was then. I didn't have a good understanding there. But all that said apart, prayer is still a valuable tool if you wanted to use it. Now, there are some people in the occult who completely will, prayer's stupid, prayer's useless. That's an artifact of Christianity, blah, blah, blah. But in truth, more often than not, most magical practitioners do use some level form of prayer, whether they know it or not. And there's nothing wrong with it. There isn't. And even with the dragons, like I said, dragons are focused on that personal relationship and building it and doing the work to build it. But if you build it, dragons work with prayer just the same. Like I say, I do prayers all the time with them. So it's very usable. You just got to build that relationship first. And with other entities, guess you could ask the question, can you build a relationship with an entity through prayer alone? Ooh, dragons? No, that's a hard no on them. Other ones, that's a good question. That is a good question because you would have to look at the entity and what the entity is looking for and, how would they want that relationship to develop? What do they consider a relationship? Because not all entities are created equal. For some, it's about, it is about worship. It's about honoring special days or special times of year. and things like that, certain festivals, perhaps the weekly or daily rituals that one is expected to do. And that is how you would honor and devote to them along with the prayer. There's usually some kind of devotion or honoring of them along with the prayer to build the relationship. I personally cannot think of one entity that does not have some form of devotion or something tied to it that helps to build that connection and that relationship between them and the individual. Now, those can be diverse. I've seen those be from community service. I've seen it be from working with animals. I've seen it be from joining law enforcement or military services, helping the community, working at a soup kitchen on Thanksgiving or Christmas. There's so many varieties of things one can do, even just perhaps offering. I know hunters who they offer up a bit of their hunt to an entity of the hunt as a devotion. I've seen people devote their time, all kinds of, just the spectrum goes and goes and goes. I know one individual, he's a home brewer, makes wine, makes fantastic wine, actually. He offers up one bottle of every batch he does to Dionysus. I thought that was pretty freaking cool, honestly. And then I know a mead brewer offers up a bottle each to Odin, and currently I can't think of the name of the Norse brewing deity, but offers up a bottle each of every batch to them, which I think is pretty cool. So devotion can vary as much as the entities themselves, and those are the things that you need to do and do your research. But is there a level of connection that goes with just prayer? Yes, I would say yes. It might be the simplest, most base level way of getting your foot in the door and getting to know an entity. And, it's like Jane at work. Everybody knows her. No one really talks to them. They don't know anything about them. They don't know what they do. They don't know what their hobbies are. But everybody knows Jane. Jane's a nice person, right? That's all we know. We know Jane's here. Jane clocks in. Jane's a good worker. Jane's a nice person. We know nothing about them as an individual and a true person. You can't call them a friend. You can't even really call them an acquaintance. They're just, you work with them. That's Jane. And by and large, great person. Always nice, always pleasant. That's Jane. That's prayer. Prayer is Jane. Because if all you're doing is saying a prayer and that's it, that's the bare minimum, you just became Jane. And that's not a bad place to be. I'm not insulting anyone if that's all they want to be, because not everyone wants it. Every person, we have to respect all the different paths and the levels of path. Okay? Here on this channel, we have a high focus on self-mastery, self-empowerment. There's a lot of people out there that don't want self-mastery. They don't want self-empowerment. Does that make them bad people? No. I'm a big believer in you do you, and I'll do me, and we'll just be respectful along the way. And that's fine. That is fine. There's a variety of ways, and prayer is just one tool in the box. But use it, try it, give it out. I would actually recommend writing your own prayers. I do personally think that a great power comes in taking the time to write your own. Give me a second. Because if you're writing your own, now you're putting more meaning into it. In fact, even writing your own prayer can be viewed as a form of a devotional, because you didn't just look it up on the internet. You didn't just look it up on the YouTube. You didn't just look it up in a book and I like the sound of this one, this one, I'm going to use this. No, you sat down, you put some thought to it. You thought about you thought about who the entity is, you thought about who the entity is to you, and you wrote it out. That effort adds more power to the prayer in and of itself. Okay, now this is all individual. Yes, I know we could do an entire spiel on the power of prayer, the prayer in numbers, all this thing we could. And perhaps that's a video for a later date. But as a quick introduction and concept of prayer, whether it can be used in magical practices or not, and my thoughts and opinions and ramblings upon it, I did want to get this out there and share it because I've been getting so many questions on this. And it is a great topic for those of you who have messaged me the question. So many people have put in there, this may be a dumb question. I'm sorry to bother you. It's not a dumb question. It's a good question. I thank you for it, because this is a good topic. This is a topic perhaps more should be talked about, but it doesn't get the attention it needs. So thank you for asking that question. Thank you for bringing it to my attention, and thank you for inspiring me to shoot this video to talk about it and share my thoughts with everyone. And if we need to do more about it, we will. Keep sending me those questions. I love to get them. All right. Oh, and remember, if you are interested in joining the Working Dragon Mystic community, go to workingdragonmystic.com. You'll see Working Dragon Mystic community tab over there. It will get you over to the community tab with lots of information for everyone. There's some of it there that's all public sharings and stuff. Things we can't even share here on YouTube are over in the community. And then you will have information that is to Working Dragon Mystic supporters. Join us over there, and we'll see you in the next video. All right, take care. Bye-bye.